I appreciate everyone coming out tonight, and I'd also like to thank the Alliance of Brunswick County Property Owners and everyone else who's participating in hosting this event. As John said, I'm Wesley Casteen. I'm the Democratic candidate from the 7th Congressional District, which covers 9 southeastern North Carolina counties. And I'm a lifelong resident of North Carolina, and my family roots extend for 7 generations throughout this district. The North Carolina that we have today is not the North Carolina of even a generation ago. Change is inevitable. We should not fear it, but we should respond to it. We should adapt to it. However, adapting to change does not mean doing the same things over and over and expecting different results. This election cycle, ladies and gentlemen, is unlike anything that most of us have ever experienced. However, I have confidence in America adapting to current challenges. I see an America which is already great and which has the opportunity to be an even better nation. Erskine Bowles, in presenting the report from the commission, said that you cannot grow your way out of the debt problem, you cannot cut your way out of the debt problem, and you cannot tax your way out of the debt problem. It's going to require a multifaceted approach which includes elements of all of that. So we have to look again, not only at cutting, but we've got to look at increasing our revenues, which is hard to do. Nobody wants to pay more taxes, but it's not fiscally responsible, it's not conservative, it's not the way to do things when we spend $500 billion more a year than we take in revenue. I do not support offshore drilling. My thought process in considering any issue such as that would be, is it necessary? Do we have a need that must be filled? Are there viable alternatives, and particularly as it relates to offshore drilling on the Atlantic coast? Yes, I believe there are viable alternatives elsewhere within our country. Can it be done safely, which is a matter of debate? And what plans can we develop for an accident or a spill, not only in cleanup, but how do we compensate those who might be damaged? Those things are not in place. We have situations such as the Deepwater Horizon spill, which we can all remember from the Gulf Coast. We have the Duke Energy coal ash spill on the Dan River. We have the gas pipeline in the Deep South just a few weeks ago, which led to higher gas prices even here in North Carolina. So we haven't had a demonstration from those who manage such resources to show that they can maintain them and not have the damaging effects on the environment. So until that can be demonstrated, I don't think a risk to the beach communities of North Carolina is something we should consider. The GOP-controlled Congress has attempted roughly 60 times to repeal Obamacare to no success. Obamacare has been around since 2010. The Affordable Care Act, now 6 years later, is in place. It's much too late to unring that bell at this time. There's been no replacement legislation from the Republican Party, so there's nothing to replace it with. So the idea of repealing it and leaving the folks that have now had insurance coverage for the past several years is just irresponsible. The Better Way plan that Mr. Rouse referred to is a wish list. It's not legislation. It doesn't allow to be scored or compared to the current ACA. So without having something to compare it to, it's still a matter of having a repeal program with nothing to replace it with. We now have a situation where a blind eye has been turned to that illegal immigration issue for 30 years, and we have folks that have spent much of their adult lives, or perhaps children who came as babies or toddlers, who have spent all of the life that they remember here in the United States. The idea of sending particularly those children back to a home they've never known, to speak a language they've never spoken, and to leave the only home they've ever known, which is the United States, again, is completely unreasonable. What we need to do is provide a mechanism whereby those who have come, who are working, who have established lives here, have a means of staying here and earning a living. The American Society of Civil Engineers rates the infrastructure in the United States at a D+. That is an improvement from the D- that it was just a few years ago, but it's still a D+. The amount that's needed to make the necessary changes just to bring it up to acceptable standards is measured in the small trillions. Every time there's a debate or discussion about increasing the gas tax, there's a fight to oppose any increase. So we must ask, do we want the necessary changes? Are we willing to undergo the incremental increases in costs, Or do we wait until there's a calamity? Do we wait until there's a crisis and have to deal with the larger frustrations, larger inconveniences, and larger costs? There used to be a commercial, you can pay a little now or you can pay more later. We're missing an opportunity with low interest rates. We're missing an opportunity to deal with this infrastructure problem now versus trying to wait until it manifests itself in a tragedy sometime in the future. The issues which face America today are seldom easy. Final resolutions, if they exist at all, are clouded in 1,000 shades of gray. Our government is tasked today with a difficult job, but it must do that job better. Inefficient and ineffective government has resulted in a national debt approaching $20 trillion, with related interest that could soon exceed $500 billion a year. That is money that cannot go to schools, money that cannot go to roads, or anything else that we expect government to do. The federal government is mortgaging the futures of America's children. The current system identifies nearly every issue as us versus them, Democrat versus Republican, conservative versus liberal, rich versus poor, urban versus rural. Politics has become more about personality than policy. Many politicians are seemingly more concerned about their job security than they are about the American people. I hope you've taken a careful look tonight. I hope that once you've considered your alternatives, you'll choose Wesley Casteen as your next congressman. Thank you.